Thank you.
You're gonna kick this off, right?
Yeah, okay, so why don't we call the meeting to order?
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, members of the public, Zoom viewers, Bowen Island municipal staff, and those in attendance this morning. This meeting of the Board of Variance is convened to consider an application by the owners of 235 Shore Lane, Cowan Point subdivision to consider a proposed reduction in the applicable setback from the sea to accommodate construction of a swimming pool on the property. Proposed variance is a 3.9 meter or 2.7 foot encroachment into the setback from the sea, which is described in the report included online with the meeting agenda and which will be explained more fully by Daniel Martin, head of Bowen Island Planning Department. Order of business this morning is number one, to approve the agenda. Are there any late additions to the agenda, Steph?
Yes, there are. We have 3 additional letters from the public. One is from Kathy Wolverton opposing the variance application. One is from Ron Fettback, and this includes an exchange with staff and a lawyer regarding the strata covenant restrictions or controversy regarding such. And a third is from Suzanne Lewis, the owner, which includes attachment from 2 doctors. And we also have a diagram which depicts the swimming pool and setback delineation. Item 4.3. We would have approved the agenda as amended.
Do we have can I have a motion to approve the agenda? And is there a second? The approval has been moved and seconded, and vote.
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. And second order of business is to approve the minutes of the last meeting on November 20th, 2023, the subject of which was also to consider a setback from the sea variance for this property. Do I have a motion to adopt the November 20th, 2023 meeting minutes? Wendy, okay, and seconded by my friend Rick. And all in favor? Okay, carried unanimously. Next order of business is to hear from the municipality, Daniel Martin, to present the application. Daniel?
Thank you, Chris. I have a presentation going through the application, so I will just share my screen, and then it should be on that screen in front of you. It's on the screen behind. There we go. Okay. So yes, as you described, we're here for an application of 235 Shore Lane on the south coast of Bowen Island. The relevant zoning, this property is in the area 9B, the CD6 Cowan Point Comprehensive Development Zone. And the relevant zoning for this application is that this zone has a minimum setback from the sea for buildings and structures of 15 meters. And the application is to construct an in-ground swimming pool 11.14 meters from the natural boundary to the sea. The board considers, as you know, considers applications on the basis of minor variances due to hardship. And so the applicant has provided rationale for the hardship in the application. So these 5 reasons are listed in the application. The board's reviewed. And then largely stemming from the first one in terms of compassion for mental health condition. And you'll see in your on table item, the additional letter from the applicant or the owner providing the letters from doctors as well, outlining that medical condition and the hardship associated with it. In terms of the plan, so this is the site plan that's in the application, showing the swimming pool located to the south of the building, below the building. And you'll see the setback to the sea line as this purple line that sort of bisects, not perfectly a triangle through the swimming pool, but close to it where one corner of the swimming pool is outside of the setback and one corner is inside. And essentially the line cuts through those other two corners. The applicant has provided an overall landscape plan showing the overall plan for the site and how it would be developed. Some rendering showing the swimming pool in its location with the required safety fencing around the pool. And shown cross-section elevations of the swimming pool located in the site. Staff then tried to provide just a site plan showing what the setbacks are, so the constraints on the site, so showing the overall property boundary, the house footprint, the proposed swimming pool, and the required setbacks in the land use bylaw. And then in your on-table package as well is a similar diagram from the applicant, but giving sort of some more numbers associated with it, percentages, but again, showing the area of the site that is outside of the setbacks, area that is within the required setbacks, and the proposed pool. The applicant as well in their application provided two reports from PGL Environmental Consultants. So the first one from 2016 being an overall plan for the subdivision with recommendations for each of the strata lots in the subdivision. And then a second one in 2022, a site-specific environmental report for this specific site with the proposed swimming pool. We'll also noted in the report and in some of the letters from neighbors, there is a restrictive covenant on the site, CA 6347549, which limits building into certain areas of the overall site. This covenant is a privately held covenant and not the municipality is not a signatory to it, but I bring it to the board's attention for your consideration. As you know, April 26th, the board conducted a site visit of the site with BIM staff and the applicant. The applicant had marked, let's go back. The applicant had marked the pool location on the site so the board could understand that physical context of the application. Staff attended to take notes of the meeting or the site visit. We have given notice as required. So we provided letters to neighbors. A sign was posted on site advertising the date of the hearing. There was notice in the undercurrent and on the municipal website. We had received 5 letters. So we received 4 letters opposed, 3 from owners of other strata lots and 1 for the neighboring property on Shore Lane, and 1 letter in support signed by a 6 of the strata lot owners. So in total, we heard from 9 of the strata lots. We haven't heard from 1 of the other strata lots. And then just for the board's consideration, we'll get to that point. The board is aware, but just this is our Board of Variance checklist going through the criteria in Local Government Act 542. So just a decision criteria for the board to consider. And then again, in a recommendation in terms of things for the board to consider. So I'm going to turn it to you, Chris, to ask if you have clarifying questions on that. Maybe this is a good time, sort of the background details of the application.
I have a couple of questions. Wendy and Rick, do you have questions?
Just one on the plan. Did you want me to ask it now or do you want to?
Yeah, please do.
I'm just curious about the green dotted line. What is that?
It's showing the permitted encroachments that we permit. So we permit like decks to encroach into the required setbacks. So it's showing 1.25 meters. It's showing that potential encroachment. Or like what the bylaw permits to.
So is that how much would be permitted in any instances of any kind of additional structure on the property or just to do with decks?
It's just to do with decks. So like if the house was built, further out, the deck could extend to that, or I guess even with the house was where it is now, the deck can extend to that.
But it's not saying that that it applies to the pool.
No,
Okay, thank you.
this is just the overall, I think, site plan, so showing for the house itself as well, where
Okay, thank you.
Just in line with that, you couldn't say that that green line reduces the amount of encroachment of the pool or the effect of
right?
the encroachment.
Because it's not a deck.
Yeah, so it's not permitted to be built there because it's not a deck. I mean, the board could consider and say,
Is
well,
it limited to decks?
I stopped sharing, I can find the language in the land use bylaw, but it's like decks, balconies.
Yeah.
We have different setback exceptions for different things, so then we permit things like chimneys to extend a certain smaller amount and
Eaves.
eaves, you know.
Yeah,
So
overhangs and things like that. Okay,
I just have one question. On the site plan from the municipality, looks like the high water mark is different than it is on this plan. If you-
I think there's
This is the high water mark. It doesn't match what's on that
this
plan.
one. These are both taken from. Oh, I think it's because, so this plan is showing the high water mark, and then if you see where this red line continues, this is where it's then property.
It's property line.
So this is property line and then high water mark. And again here, property line, or sorry, property line, high water mark, right?
Yeah. I'm just,
Yeah, and so on this one, it's showing property line into high water mark.
I see. Okay.
And then same with this
Okay,
one
it's
as
just
well.
picking up that little part.
Yeah, so this, it makes it seem straighter across because you don't see the sort of swoop of the sea that you do see here where you see.
Okay.
the natural
Okay.
okay, my question, first of all, is in the letter from Mr. Fetback and the supportive letter from his lawyer, Phil Dugan. Mr. Dugan is with Citadel Law Corporation in Vancouver. They're focusing on the Board of Variance covenant. I mean, sorry, they're focusing on the covenant. They're kind of throwing it back on us to not do anything in contravention of the covenant or to respect, as they call it, the covenant. And you're indicating that the municipality is not bound or required to interpret the covenant because it's private agreement among the owners of these properties in the Strata Corporation. I was just wondering if you have an opinion on what the board's decision position is within light of that conflict. There's a conflict there.
Yeah, so what I had replied to the neighbor was that they were pointing to, there's a section in the Local Government Act saying the board, must not consider a variance. Forget the wording, must not consider a variance that has to do with certain things. And one of them is a covenant registered in section 219 of the Land Title Act. And they had pointed to that to say the board doesn't have power to issue a decision if there's potentially a covenant that conflicts with that. And what I had replied was that section 219 specifically relates to covenants that are held by municipalities, regional districts, local trust committees, the Crown. That category of user, that's a specific type of covenant. So if there was a municipal covenant that said you can't build in a certain area, the board wouldn't be able to issue a variance that was in conflict with that. But this covenant is a privately held covenant. So what I replied was that it is appropriate for the board to consider the covenant and consider it in your decision about appropriate development of the state, but that it is within the board's power to issue the variance if you determine those the criteria and you determine that you would issue the variance. That's within your power.
Okay, so is it the complaint or between Mr. Fetman and his lawyer, do they limit their complaint to a 219 covenant? Or do they not make the distinction? Or are you just saying by definition, it's not a 219 covenant?
Like I'm saying, this covenant is not a section 219 covenant, and the section of government is specific to a section 219 covenant.
Okay,
So the covenant is for the strata only then.
Yeah, I'm not clear if it's the strata or it's the property developer. But it's not, but the municipality is not a signatory to it.
I understood that as it's something between Cowan Point Developments or whatever their name is. And the,
yeah, I think it was initiated in the structuring of the strata
yeah,
uh,
because they're.
corporation.
Yeah, because they're the one that were granted the 15-meter
Right.
setback.
Yeah. And then as it matures and becomes part of the rules and regulations of that strata corp, it's just there for them to be governed by. But when it comes to a dispute, as I understand it from Daniel, it's out of our purview. And and they do have recourse if we were to grant this variance application in the affirmative, then if there's further issue in the strata itself, they would have to look for redress among themselves. And they would have an opportunity to take representation and do whatever they had to do to sort that out. But it's really, we haven't been given any kind of a stop and desist kind of order from any governing body. So this isn't something that we can actually directly consider. We could consider, but we can't, we aren't stopped from going ahead. I think it's what I'm saying ineloquently.
Yeah.
Okay, so Rick, what do you always have these great things to observe. One of the things Rick brought up to me privately was that this of the 9 strata lots, is it? 11, but the waterfront of the
I think there's 8 of them are.
of the 8 waterfront lots, there's a unique characteristic of this lot, which really imposes the difficulty that they're having on them. And that is that the shoreline projects in toward the house, right at the point where the distance between that projection and the swimming pool is the very narrowest. And it's unique along that line of waterfront lots. That condition doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's an interesting feature, geographic feature of the lot. It doesn't seem to mitigate the reality of the situation, but in terms of precedent and people's concern about this condition or the granting of a variance here, setting a precedent, appears as though it's not a condition anywhere else along that line of lots.
I think, Chris, just if I may, I think if they're not questions specific to the presentation, then maybe it's more appropriate we'll move on in the agenda to hear from the public and the applicant.
I agree.
And the board can have.
Okay,
So it goes like applicant and then
so,
public.
so the next order of business is to open this meeting up to the public and see if there are public comments present today, either online or here in the audience.
So I think Darren's been clear, he doesn't need to speak. There's Richard online. Does Richard want to speak today?
Pardon me?
I'm just wondering if Richard, who's online, would like to speak to
Oh.
the Board of Variance today? And here,
Hello,
No, that's
Richard.
okay.
okay, he's just listening. We have another member of the public in the audience. Would you like to speak to the Board of Variance today?
No, I'm just here to learn the process.
Okay, thank you. We may be able to move on to the applicant who would probably like to speak.
Okay. Would we be able to hear from the applicant now, please?
And so just for members of the public, we have the applicant is Fritz DeBree is the architect of the property, and Susan Lewis is the property owner. The variance.
So Suzanne should speak first.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to speak and for having this meeting. I had written to you as members to speak to and answer any questions, regarding this reason for this variance at 235 Shore Lane. I'm a co-owner of the property together with my husband, Dr. Richard Lewis, who's listening, I understand, hi Zoom. He had surgery today and so couldn't attend in person. He had to obviously fulfill that obligation. He's a surgeon. I too am a qualified physician. I work at Children's Hospital in UBC as a clinical professor, working with children with developmental disabilities in my day-to-day career. In any event, I would like to submit for your review, and I think you just received the two letters of recommendation from two of my attending physicians. One is from my family doctor, Dr. Lucy McShane, and the second from Dr. Martin Roos, who's an anesthesiologist and medical director at the pain clinic at London State Hospital, where I'm being looked after. They are letters of recommendation regarding the pool variance and our reasons for asking for this. For their purposes, it's really a testament to how beneficial it is to me with a chronic arthritis condition that I've had for decades, to this point leading to 2 full knee replacements, spinal fusion surgery, and probably more spinal fusion surgery to come. So it's been recommended that I do non-weight bearing exercise and in a pool that is facilitated, but where you can also help improve your core body strength, which is where a lot of your supportive structures are in your body to help compensate for problems with joints and in the spine. This had been in our sightlines, from the point that we initially approached, the idea of having a pool was that it would be not a frivolous undertaking, but one that would be for purely, therapeutic purposes for myself and for my husband and family if need be. It's not for partying. It's not for, entertaining hordes of children or loud parties or anything. This is for a very functional purpose to improve my quality of life and the ability to age healthily in place at home, which will be, our future retirement home. It's been, and I did mention in my covering email that it's been, a prolonged process to get to this, but I don't want to review that or give any ill feeling about the time that it's taken to get to this point. We're still hanging in there. I can't say it's without some degree of hardship that's been felt, but we're still here with the problem that I'm facing, that 3 years out, we don't have a decision on whether or not we can build this pool or not. It had been designed at one point to be a curved pool to try and match more the covenant setback. However, that was going to be problematic in terms of getting an appropriate pool cover that would close securely over it. And thus we opted for a rectangular shaped pool, which goes a little bit more into the setback, but ensures that it'll have a healthy, sturdy cover on top of it that would protect any children who might, for unforeseen reasons, find their way into that area, or animal or wildlife or whatever. It's a very secure, solid wooden covering that would cover the pool that can come with it together. So that's really what we're here to talk about. I think, this variance, not sort of the issues around, perceptions of strata disagreement, civil resolution tribunals or agreements about, covenants that are not, the way I understand it, and strata hands to the side, but with the charge holder who still remains Bowen Island Properties. And that those were put in place the way we were told when we bought the property to ensure everyone would have, sightlines that are enshrined so that they will have a nice view. And we have tried with the design process in place that Fritz realized to put this pool in a place where it is least intrusive, where essentially really no one can see it. And as close as possible to the home, so that's not going further into the setback area. Because we want to be good neighbors and have used the environmental consultants working with us to put in place a very thorough remediation plan for the remainder of the lot to ensure that the natural bluff is sustained as that and the property around it, part for the pool that will go into that setback. So, thank you for your consideration, of listening to me and taking into account those letters from my physicians and also the letter of supports that have come from the other waterfront owners. I think apart from one who is a fellow who is deceased, and that particular property is in trust with another representative in the United States, so they were unable to be reached. Anyways, I look forward to your deliberations and decisions, and hope it may be positive, but I'll accept whatever comes our way.
Great, right?
Fritz, would you like?
Yeah, well, I do. I find that so much has been said already and so much has been analyzed. And so maybe the only thing I comment on is the architecture, but what we have achieved and tried to achieve. Which is we've provided, safe access to the house, this very steep area, and if it's snowy or if it's slippery of any kind, Suzanne doesn't have to worry about it. So we make sure that the driveway is level and comes directly into the garage, which you have seen, which is set in the middle floor of the house. So that made it impossible to do anything on the middle floor. So then we put the living spaces of the house, which is the kitchen, the dining room and the living room, on the lower level to also provide level access to the garden and level access to the pool. So, and then for other things that are done specifically for accessibility is that there's an elevator, and it's the same elevator that Suzanne uses now in their home in West Vancouver, and it services the 3 levels of the house. The house is also designed without any steps in the house, like it's just stairs and elevator. Then maybe about the retaining wall, the Board of Variance November approval of the retaining wall was done in that kind of sequence because as an architect, I had a huge pressure on all language because it's an agreement with the whole to be built. So it's done and everything is placed from a legal point of view. Before the wall, it's there. But of course, the purpose of the wall, from a client's perspective, is being to provide a level area, which you have seen, which is suitable to place pool in for Suzanne's use. Then the building permit, the permits that are in place, I think you probably know all of that, and the approvals that we received from I was going to call Bowen Island Properties Danish Strata, right? Because I don't know exactly where the approvals come from. That is more for Darren Jennings to answer. But so what's approved is the driveway in the garage, the retaining wall, and the pool. So all items that we talk about as the approvals that we need. The only thing that's outstanding is that. So this is the third building permit application that we still have to make for the pool. Cannot make that building permit application before a Board of Variance. I think that is kind of what I wanted to say, but what I want to maybe say one thing is that at the beginning of the process, I wasn't clear what the responsibilities of the municipality are. I assumed that the Rhode Island municipality would take more interest or have more legislation in place to make sure that the foreshore, the setback of the sea would be, from an environmental point of view, restored. That process I found difficult because Rhode Island doesn't have a environmental development growth zone along the border. And so now I understand better that it's difficult for the municipality to have taken it into account. But I just hope that you, for the variance, that you acknowledge the enormous amount of time and money that is spent on environmental protection. Hiring a PGL is not that easy. It's a big company. It's a good job. I was really impressed with Kevin McCudor, who works at PGL. Again, he's hard to get, but when you have him on site, he's just amazing. And so he worked hard with Lara and Johan, the landscape architects, to make sure that the landscape plan that is presented actually implements all the requirements from the environmental report. I think for the rest, I think that Suzanne has clearly described what your needs are, and so I feel comfortable to say this at the end of my presentation.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment? Okay, then I think our next step here in the process is to turn it back to the board, and we can open up a discussion to consider the application. And I think municipality suggests and staff suggests that we follow the procedure of asking these qualifying questions that apply to all Board of Variance deliberations are supposed to. And they're listed in the staff report on page something or other here. Fumble.
Page 2.
And stuff is still up on that.
They're up here as well.
It's on that.
Yeah, okay. I need to find them here because I can see
It's in
that
the
far.
agenda, on page 2 of the agenda.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so,
Do you want to bring you a quick sec?
yep,
That's right
we
there.
can have a break.
I'm seeing the.
Oh, sorry. Sorry. How long was it on YouTube for?
Raise it up here, but
Okay.
at the very beginning, you said we were short 3.9 meters, 7 feet.
12.7 feet.
12, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you grab the document, sometimes you grab the screen. Okay. I think I grabbed the document just to see. Yeah, okay. There we go, so now it's there. You've got that in front of you, or do you need this here?
I can see it.
On your paper or on the
I'd
screen?
like to see it on paper too. Do you have one?
I might want to pull this back over in front of me so I can possibly type.
My
That's your
issue is
will.
my eyes
I can.
are not perfect.
Okay,
I either have to put the distance glasses on to see the computer.
yeah.
Or
so- Do
these on to see what's going on paper.
you want me to send you this Word doc?
And they're both bifocals, believe it or not. Neither one works for anything. Okay, so on page 13 of 113 of the stuff that was printed out from the staff report, this is, I presume, directly from the
Government Act.
the Government Act. So do you want me to follow this or that?
They're
The
should be the
same.
same.
But they're not worded the same. They're not numbered the same.
Oh, there's a little bit of, I cleaned up the local government act for you.
Okay, good. So we'll follow your cleaned up version.
4.4, that's on that.
So for that one, I used my distance glasses.
Okay.
Are we
Okay.
talking about whether the variance is or is not minor, or are we talking about something?
But we have to deliberate that one point among, as well as the others.
Yeah.
Deliberate means, first, I think I'll ask if anyone disagrees
With what?
that it might be minor. And I would like to start, we'll address the issue of minor versus major first, okay? And so I will suggest that the board, we will discuss that. And I'll express my opinion last. So Rick, do you have an opinion on that?
No, I just think it's a minor issue. So,
Wendy?
I think it's a major issue.
Okay. Go ahead and explain, please.
Swimming pools are not environmentally friendly, generally speaking. And every single thing I looked up online about swimming pools suggests that they should be 100 feet or just over 30 meters from a natural body of water to be safe and environmental. I know we got a report from DCL. That's only one report.
Okay, well, I have
That's
not
why
researched it and I don't
That's why I
know.
do not think that it's mine.
Okay, that's good to have that opinion. I think we need staff's help here in commenting on that because I don't claim to know anything about it and I haven't researched it. Rick is a experienced architect with 85 years of experience and he's not expressed a concern about it. Rick tells me he's done over 250 projects, commercial shopping center projects alone. And if that hasn't come up as a problem, or if you don't feel it's a problem, can you comment on that, Rick, first before I go further?
no, I know it's already established as a structure, it's established within that setback area. What I didn't know was environmentally though, if you take a line either side of the pool and move it all out, you get to the high water mark, it's almost parallel to one side of the pool. And it gives you about approximately 50 meters out there directly in front of the pool. As we talked about before, this choke point that comes in on the high water mark is the issue that we really have here. And if that had been, if it had been some other out farther, of course, we wouldn't be here. But environmentally, I think there's a lot of land out there. There's always the chance of a spill or something in that water into the ocean. They're very few and far between, though. There's very few of them that create that kind of a problem. So my feeling is it's a minor amendment.
However, the way I see it as well is that if this is a precedent-setting situation, then all the other waterfront properties will be allowed to put in a pool.
Well, the only-
That's already there, now, even if it is within the 15-meter setback, they still should all be 30 meters away from the ocean.
Well, first of all, the other properties are not precluded from putting in a pool by anything other than their setback from the sea, as far as I understand.
But even if they were even if they were putting in a pool within the 15-meter setback, it's still too close to the ocean.
But in terms of the issue of setting a precedent, we're not setting a precedent other than to vary the 15 meters. We're not varying the 30-meter setback.
No, I know that.
So the 15-meter setback is the applicable regulation.
Right.
Daniel, do you have a comment or can you help us out on this?
I think my main comment would be that like it's up to the board to determine if a variance is minor or major. So I'm not, able to provide sort of advice, and we're saying this is a board discussion. You have the facts before you.
I wonder maybe if there are other points to discuss, maybe flesh out variety of points and I'm not.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, we'll take note of Wendy's objection and carry on. Moving to the issue of whether sufficient number of people in the neighborhood and the public have been notified. My understanding from staff report is that they've gone through the requisite notification procedure and everybody's been notified and we've received the objection and support letters. Matter of interest, the support letters outnumber the objection letters by a large margin, and it appears as though the support letters are over 75% of the residents. Does anyone have a comment on that? Okay,
I'm not sure if you're correct on that, on the numbers.
What is it?
it's okay.
To 5 or?
5 to 6, is it?
What I'm assuming is that the property that's currently in custodianship, if that's what you can call it, would be supportive.
I don't think that's a fair assumption. I think for this bullet point, this is, you're agreeing that like the people have been notified.
People have been
Have
notified.
an opportunity to
Okay.
speak, so
All right.
that one.
Okay, so I withdraw the comment about the 75%. And then,
Withdrawn.
pardon me,
Sorry.
what was it?
I've just, when you said withdrawn, it felt very legalese and.
I don't know what I'm doing here, so I need a lot of help.
No, I'm just,
Okay.
sorry.
Actually, the architect representing the owner here used to be the chair of this committee. And my preference would have been for him to stay in that position. So, but I'll do my best. And then the next issue is, does the variance represent an inappropriate development of the site?
Sorry, Chris, the one before is
Hardship.
undue hardship.
No, I'm changing the order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So does anyone feel on the board, do Rick or Wendy feel that it's an inappropriate development?
I still stick with it's too close to the sea.
Okay, Rick?
I don't think it's inappropriate because it's as tight as you can get to the house. You can't really move it out any farther. So I don't know. I find it an appropriate development.
Okay, and to go back to the order, is the
Sorry, Chris.
hardship demonstrated? The applicant's hardship claimed for health reasons, does the board feel that is a demonstrated hardship for the proposed variance? Rick?
Well, the recent letters that were submitted on the hardship are something which I feel is sets the hardship factor. I think it's well documented in the letters by the other doctors submitted. So I find the hardship appropriate.
And I agree, I find it compelling. I think it's relevant in the circumstances. And Wendy?
Yes, I understand your situation. I have arthritis as well. So I understand how hard it is on you. And you're right, everybody who has arthritis should swim. However, there are other ways to get aquatic exercise without a pool. So I still believe that pool is not really necessary for the hardship situation. There's swim spas that you can swim against, but come in like 20-foot lanes.
I tried that. It's simply a pool with a flotation device where I have to walk and move against that resistance, not a gushing resistance coming right at me that would probably cause more harm than good in my particular case.
Can I call the floor or just?
Yeah.
Is that okay for them to keep commenting?
Really,
There you go, right? Okay.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So now we're back to the environment again. And I guess we're gonna have the same discussion. Does the proposed variance have a negative effect on the environment, Wendy?
Potentially,
Uh-huh.
especially if everybody along there puts a pool in. But I know that's got nothing to do with this application.
Yeah, I don't think that we can visualize everybody on the waterfront with a pool. I don't know if anything has been planned so far or submitted. But if the pool wasn't there, it would more than likely be a concrete patio. And there's no difference to me whether in the environment, whether it's a concrete patio or whether it's a pool. I don't find the environmental thing an issue myself.
Rick, from an architect's technical point of view, are you aware of any kind of a barrier that could be incorporated into the design here that would mitigate this concern of Wendy's?
No, I don't think you can start restricting anybody for the number of pools and such in this area. I mean, they have
For this one pool?
yeah, it's one pool.
I'm saying for this one pool.
Yeah.
Would a barrier be a consideration
A barrier to,
to the sea where out near that, where that point comes in, something could be incorporated into the shoreline that above the, at the top of the bank? I was reading just the other day about a big ladder thing that they use on open ocean shorelines that reduces erosion. I wonder if it could be used in reverse to.
well, I think talking about a pool leak or something, I think those are very common. And I think the landscaping going out to that high water mark and that high water mark, I mean, there's a cliff there. You've got a long way to go up to get the water onto the site. So it's better water off of the site. And my personal experience, I've never heard of a pool that had a sort of substantial leak, especially the type of pool that they're talking about here. I've seen pools lift out of the ground during a high tide in Richmond, but as far as leakage, I've never come across it myself.
Any further comment? But I assume we can assume you feel that the environmental issue is the main issue with the pool. And the next point is, are we talking about something that would substantially affect the use and enjoyment of the property by the adjacent property owners? You have a comment on that?
No.
You have a comment on that? I don't think it would have a substantial effect. Basically, nobody can see this pool except one of the houses can see part of the pool from way above on the other side of the road. So I don't feel it would have an effect or a negative effect on their use and enjoyment. Does the variance vary the permitted uses and densities on the site? I don't see that it does. Do you?
No, there's no density change.
Okay. And and would the variance defeat the intent of the bylaw in general? Any part of the bylaw? Can't see that it would. No?
No.
Okay. And lastly, What is this written as?
This is our new one.
Oh, yeah.
What is this gonna say?
So it doesn't vary the application of applicable bylaw in relation to residential rental tenure. So we can now zone for rental. And I guess it's like saying you can't vary it to say, oh, you can sell this one lot. Because if it was zoned for only rental units, the board couldn't say, you can stratify this one unit because there's a hardship and so you can sell this.
So it just has to be in there.
We've included it in here and you'll see it now forever, and we don't have any residential rental tenure zoning on Bowen, so.
So like, is it moot or is it like,
We just included it because we wanted to include all the points, but.
Yeah.
we didn't say
so like it doesn't,
Yeah,
like the answer is, Yes.
I've written it in the way that you should say it.
the answer is yes
yeah.
or no, depending on which is the right answer. I can't even read it. Whereas the variance does not vary the application of an applicable, so that's two repetitions right there in the first part of the sentence. Of an applicable bylaw in relation to residential rental tenure. Well, I just say good luck, so it's not our problem and it wouldn't be a constraint on our decision, right?
Right.
Right. Okay, so now we have a decision to make here and we have to vote, and we obviously don't have full agreement. So,
Share mine, maybe.
Yeah.
Just,
Can I speak?
I don't think you can.
I can invite Fritz to speak, I believe.
We discussed it because last time we really got quite chatty in the audience, and so we don't review the.
I find it very strange because like,
If you're gonna say, if you have an opportunity to say something helpful, which would make the decision
we
clearer,
do.
Yeah.
It's.
but I don't think criticizing what's going on in the process at the staff level would make it any easier for us to make a decision. So if you have something you can offer from maybe a technical point of view,
Okay, like, it has something to do with the process, right? Because I would have given a longer presentation if I started, because I wouldn't know, right? But what I'm trying to say is that there are 4 or 5 items that from my point of view, relate to environmental protection. And if that is a concern from one of the members, then I would like to.
so that would be helpful, I think. Would you agree, Wendy?
Sure.
Okay,
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is that we're working with professionals here, right? And if we ask a client to do an environmental report for their property, if I make sure that that perfectly implements the environmental report that has permitted the whole subdivision to go forward, right? It's the same. Every owner of a lot has to get an environmental report that is specific for their lot, and it has to implement the requirements of the report that's done for all lots, right? So then we did our best to make sure that that happens perfectly. So we hired the same firm, Richard and Suzanne, agreed with my recommendation to hire exactly the same firm. Now, if a report is done by an environmental consultant, it's signed and sealed. They put their whole profession, their registration at risk. If we cannot believe or accept a environmental report from a consultant, then this whole process doesn't work. How about structural? How about mechanical? How about electrical? All these people do that. They give a report, and that report is thorough, professional, and correct. It says that the pool has no impact. That's what it says. And then a landscape plan is done to implement that. Now, I just want to finish this, okay? Now that I have your attention. Then what we said about the patio. Can the patio be bigger? The patio can be everywhere on the lot. There is no restriction on what you can do in 15-meter setback of the sea. There is no development permit zone there's no environmental development permit zone along the road. It should be there. I know that Danielle thinks it should be there. He told us 8 years ago, now 10 years ago, that he tried to do that. Other waterfront owners were not paid. And then we did recently, when I submitted, the original submission was a development permit application for a comprehensive plan that has environmental action as the follow. And I have defined who really needs, right? So when Rick asked the question, how far can the decks go? Hard surfaces, they can be anywhere, you know, because there are no specific pool regulations and there are no regulations for that area, right? So it's almost like the Strata has said, oh no, we want to have an environmental report done, not the municipality. The municipality should, and I know that Danielle wants it as well, but it hasn't happened because the other lot owners all around the island have opposed that, right? So that's, then the other item is that the setback. Everybody says there's a 30-meter setback, there's a 50-meter setback, there's a 7.5-meter setback. I know where that came from. I was at the Advisory Planning Commission before Bowen Island incorporated. It wasn't there for environmental at all. It was there because council at the time asked, they had a problem that new buildings were built closer to the waterfront than existing homes. Those setbacks are there to protect views from existing homeowners. That was how the smells came about, right? And I personally thought that it was a good idea because then everybody had to get an environmental report done if they would want that to be reduced, right? Now I'm sitting here and I think, well, you know, everybody thinks it's an environmental setback. It's not. It should be, but it's not. And so and then the whole discussion is a pool structure or not? That's one of the, that's not the question. If a pool is not a structure, it just means it's less than 2 high. It's less than 0 meters height, right? We're talking about the height of the pool. Any structure that is less than 0.6 meters high can be anywhere. Anywhere. You can have a play pool for kids there, for kids you don't see. Now, the municipality has done the calculation on the height of the pool, right? Now, the height of the pool is 1.5 meters. Now, 1.5 meters because of the calculation, but calculation could have been different. I personally think it should have been different, but I accept it, you know. I do think it's not correct, but I accept it because the municipality has provided a report and has decided that the pool is 1.5 meters high. If the pool is, it's an in-ground pool, it sits totally level in the ground, right? But it has that height because of the calculation. If I explain to somebody that the pool has that height of 5 feet, they say, well, where is it? You know, it's just calculation, that's all it is. And that calculation needs to be varied. The municipality, and there's so many things happening in the municipality, and it's hard to find time, you know, for all these regulations to be done, right? And I just know that it is not that every day on Bowen Island a pool is being installed, right? So it's just it's under structures. It's not defined separately as a pool. So but I guess what I'm saying is that all the everything that's done is to get the best outcome from an environmental point of view and to get the best outcome for Suzanne.
Okay. Rick, do you have a comment? We're still in this discussion at the board level.
Your time.
No, I don't think I have anything else, any other questions for the applicant.
I would ask one more thing. Could you point out to us where in the letter from the environmental consultant, it says that the pool is not a problem?
That's in the report. It should be.
I'd like to see where it is though.
Well, I think it's time to find it.
Okay, well, does anybody else know where it is?
Wants to ask me, I can.
It was sent in an email like ages ago.
It's in our
Well, no, it was in one of these two reports. I just couldn't find it. I was leafing through it here. If somebody could help us find that.
The property says they're dependent, so have to get to be.
I think I read it too, but I'd like to be able to refer to it for the moment. Because it seems to me that one could ask, Daniel, can you find it? I mean, do they even mention the pool?
Yes. So the pool is mentioned as the proposed development. Yeah, as the swimming pool is like the genesis, the report is about the swimming pool associated.
And that's in the
The 2022.
the 2022 report. Maybe I'm looking for the wrong one.
So the 2016 one is the one that's the general one for the whole
Yeah,
subdivision and includes like slight improvements for each one.
yeah.
And the 2022 report is one that's specifically.
What does it say? Does it say, does it even mention it in the body of the report?
In the 2022 report, yes.
Yeah, what does it say about it?
Sorry, I'm trying to find a nice, if there's a nice.
Maybe I didn't print that part of it. I don't think I printed that, so I don't know. You have it?
Like I'm sharing next steps. The objective, the impact summary, concept mitigation plan, facilitate initial discussion. We believe BIM should be willing to entertain some level of variance, the applicable setback from the sea, given the constraints proposed on the site's development. And it does list next steps would include development of a detailed habitat restoration enhancement plan, preparation of environmental impact assessment, development of mitigation strategies and plans, and a project-specific construction environmental management plan.
Okay, I think I know how we should approach this.
And then, so the summary, we believe BIM would be open to discussing setback variance given the constraints, their setbacks placed in calculability of the site. The site is severely degraded, very limited habitat values associated with the marine setback coastal bluff areas. The site provides significant opportunities through habitat restoration and enhancement to greatly improve the features, functions, and conditions of the coastal bluff foreshores. I think that was the statement.
Yeah, well, either the environmental consultants addressed this and felt that there was sufficient reason to believe that the pool was not going to be a problem environmentally, or they didn't address it. And my suggestion would be if we would have an opportunity to vote on this and found that the vote was going to carry, possibly 2-1, that we might consider a condition that that the approval was conditional upon satisfactory to who? We're not going to have another meeting. How do you do this? If there was an opportunity to ask to have the approval structured in such a way that the applicant was required to obtain a way of addressing the pool in such a way that the consultant would certify that the proposed, that the actual permitted construction was going to not provide an environmental hazard, then maybe that's the way we could.
So I think then what I would probably recommend is you're saying is that you'd be saying, you know, I think then we have in the recommendation.
There's
Yeah, I just wanted to quote from this first, but my recommendation, right, that you be allowed with the following conditions, and the condition could be completion of a project-specific construction environmental management plan as outlined in the 2022 PGL report.
Yeah, there's not much in there now, so.
Yeah, because right now it says, you know, next steps would be developing this plan.
But it doesn't, I don't see that it addresses the pool.
I just think we need somebody to say, a pool in this location will not impact the natural environment in any way, shape, or form. I would be happy just knowing that.
Yeah,
By a professional.
I agree. But see, that's going to happen.
Is like, it's been, there's mitigation assessment done, but all I see is plant material.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that I'm groping for that kind of language that we might be able to use to satisfy all of us. But also, it's going to happen after this vote to approve variance. So how do you incorporate it in? Well, you incorporate it by condition. So who does the condition have, who does the subsequent environmental plan have to satisfy?
So if the condition was as that, essentially saying like the 2022 PTO report, this follow-up plan, we want to approve it on the condition that then staff would essentially make that as a condition of the building permit. So the building permit could be issued for the variance when you fulfill the condition.
The other way of approaching it is to defer the decision and add a separate subsequent Board of Variance meeting, satisfactory environmental report that shows us how that would be accomplished.
Yeah.
Okay,
One comment maybe?
I think you're done.
Well, it's like, I just want you to know that the landscape plan is fully coordinated with the environmental consultant, that the consultants are hired for full services and make sure that all the conditions.
I know, but it's possible that we have, diversions of opinion among different professional consultants. And Wendy's obviously come across some that don't think that it would be permissible in any circumstances to be any closer than 100 meters from
100 feet.
100 feet from the shore, which is like 30 meters. So it's possible we could continue to proceed and vote on this right now, but I'm just saying we'd have to figure out how to word this approval. And hopefully we can make it unanimous so we don't have to have a dissenting opinion. Which I think the solution is to incorporate reliance on the professionals, the PGA, whatever. But ask them to go a step further in their consideration, include the pool specifically, and make their approach to the recommendation of the pool, incorporate that as a condition of the building permit. How's that?
Okay.
Yeah, stick it to the building permit.
Okay. Dang, I don't
Now,
know.
who's going to approve a revised letter for the landscape?
That's what I'm saying. It's happening after
That's true. I mean,
after the vote.
Yeah, I guess ultimately we'd be saying, well, the municipality would be approving it. So it'd be like our manager of parks and the environment. So I think the board would want to, like, if your condition is, wanting a construction environmental management plan as outlined in the 2022 PGL report, then it's placing like sort of nice constraints for staff on it too, and the applicant. So we're clear that like we have a 2022 PGL report and it says next steps, do this plan that does these things.
But then it has to specifically address the pool.
So
It has to go from there to addressing the pool and the way the pool mitigates from an environmental point of view.
so that a project specific construction environmental management plan
Can I put this up?
as outlined, in that PGL report.
I think we're writing the same thing, maybe.
Maybe. I was trying to bracket it so it's clear to staff what the expectation is for the condition and the applicant. So it's not that staff are reviewing a future report.
Right.
Completely like, oh, does this meet everything that I would like to be in it? So we're saying, we have the 2022 report. It says you need to do this thing, you need to do these things. Staff are reviewing it, said like, does this project specific construction environmental management plan do the things that the 2022 plan said it should do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it doesn't mention it mentions the pool in the heading, but it doesn't actually do anything for the pool
So I
to
think,
satisfy Wendy's concerns.
so I think stuff like, I think even saying like project specific construction environment management, maybe doesn't need a separate line, but maybe it would say project specific construction environmental management plan addressing the proposed pool.
Would that work for you?
And then, but then that's not with, as outlined in the,
Yes, and as outlined in the 2022 PGL report. And I think it's that be completed.
Yep.
I'm just thinking, because like obviously we would issue the building permit, given that we have a plan. And we wouldn't, because obviously, like probably the things in the plan couldn't be implemented until the pool is actually done, because it's like during construction, you'll do these things. But so maybe it's, yeah.
as a condition of the building permit in this bullet? Or is that a given?
I think because it says a condition of the variance, but we're saying for us to issue a building permit, you have to fulfill the conditions of the variance.
So that's a given, sorry, that's part,
Yeah.
that's the law. I don't need to write it down. Okay.
How you set the timing of that? And you say it's gotta be complete what? Before
That the plan is complete.
the plan is complete.
Should be a timeline on it though.
Well, it'll.
With a reason.
Part of the building permit, so you won't finalize the permit until all that work is done. So,
Yeah. What do you have to? So not the occupancy permit, certainly.
No, it would be, we have a plan from PTL, project specific, it's the construction environmental management plan that was in the next steps. It addresses the pool. We would issue the building permit based on the variance and based on meeting that condition.
Based on the undertaking,
Yeah,
which is future.
right, and then, yeah.
And then, so how do you enforce that?
Yeah, and then,
can't fill up the pool, maybe.
Yeah, right. If it's not done by a certain time, it has to be filled with concrete.
Do you want to take that over?
no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, like I guess it would be our inspections would be part of the inspection of the building permit would be the conditions of the plan being met.
If it's part of the building permit, it's gonna be done before final.
Yeah.
So it's simple.
But presumably, I'm picturing a plan that maybe some of the stuff is construction related. You know what I mean? Like, so I think we'd be looking in there if it is construction, like how it's implemented. So typically like for development permits, if it's like, well, there has to be a pre-site meeting, maybe, then we say, okay, you need to email us to tell us you've had your pre-site meeting.
I usually put a bit of a protective fence.
I normally it's fencing and then we'd want like PGL to certify that the fencing is in as they require or something like that. So yeah, I think we'd just be looking in that plan that there's something that says, okay, this is how it is followed up on.
Did you write something down?
So that's written down. I've got a,
This is just kids playing in a rock.
they're good looking kids.
Uh,
This is the madness explanation. The blue is proposed new wording. Everything on white is ready to roll. Now the green and the yellow is 1 vote and the green is 2. From what I'm capturing from discussion so far, when the board is ready to vote, we can go with the 2 votes and then we can there'll be a vote in dissent at the end, but perhaps.
By the way, site is spelled incorrectly. It's SITE.
Where am I? What's our
The fourth one down, whereas the variance does not result in inappropriate development.
Oh, the views.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true.
SITE.
I had a partnership split up with a partner who refused to use proper English. And
Deal breaker.
I was ex-newspaper guy and I just couldn't stand it. So. Okay, so
So did you want to, we gracefully
What
moved
is
past,
the bottom thing here in blue that,
the blue is the new words that this bottom blue are the new, is the condition that was proposed and discussed and that feels like agreed upon. We'll choose the allowed, denied, or allowed with the following conditions.
no, I would say expanded to include a specific component of the construction of the building permit. Or I don't know how to do this, but
I'm not sure where.
you're saying that it already exists, the pool reference in that plan. I don't think the plan sufficiently covers that
Okay,
myself personally. I don't. We can't as a group find it in the report.
okay, so as outlined, and then I could just move this
Even
over
the
then.
applicant's advisor can't find it. So I'd say it needs to be expanded
Or
to
clarify.
include, or clarified,
Okay,
to include a way of making the pool work within the environmental constraints.
addressing,
It is not. What do you think?
Why not just say to clarify that the pool is not dangerous to the sea?
Yeah, fine, something like that.
Something very clear,
Yeah.
easy to understand.
Yeah,
Well, then you have to specify what does dangerous mean.
Or, well, not dangerous, but,
that sufficient measures have been taken to, in the environmental mitigation plan to accommodate the pool. Or, I mean, since the environmental plan is about protecting the environment, right? So if you can say something about measures have been taken in that plan to address the pool, maybe that's a way of dealing with it.
or the proposed pool would not adversely affect the local environment.
Okay? Okay, that sounds good.
And sorry, Steph, can
Yeah.
you change it where it says issuance? It's just issuance of a building permit. Like this would be as written, this would be the board issuing the variance with a condition.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
project-specific construction environmental plan, I was the between the report that clarifies the proposed pool will not be completed prior to issuance of.
Can you put this,
Yeah,
can you put that up here?
And so then just to be clear, then we would be looking for a construction. Back to next steps, we would be looking for a construction, environmental and management plan that includes the things that they've listed. So environmental construction specifications, project related management
Oh, sorry.
as needed, information and directions for the owner and all hired contractors, subcontractors to help maintain environmental values. Information regarding the role of environmental monitor. And then we would be looking for some clear statement that says
So
like,
are you-
sorry, finish. If the conditions in this plan are met, the proposed pool will not adversely affect the local natural environment.
On yours wording, Steph, I don't know where you were reading from, but it's not what Steph has here, is it?
No, I'm just reading for what,
Trying to
in
get-
that 2022 report, when it says there needs to be a construction environmental management plan, it says it would address these things.
Okay, so
When
then
we're
in,
looking for a report, we would look for it to address those things. So
Okay.
that's why this is just referencing that report.
so in Steph's wording, I would say,
So he's saying as outlined in the report, he's just giving you.
yeah, so I'm proposing another little modification here, which is, so I'm gonna read the whole thing. That a project-specific construction environmental management plan as outlined in the 2022 PGL report. It clarifies that the proposed pool would not adversely affect the local environment. Be completed prior to and as a condition of issuance of a building permit. So I would add and as a condition of.
I like that, but it says right here.
Yeah, so Chris, it's like, we can't issue a building permit with that condition on. But what we can.
No, it's not a condition. So,
So it'll, like, by doing this, you're saying that that plan is a condition of the variance, right, which you can require as a condition of the variance. The building permit is then issued if the conditions of the variance are met.
And it's a condition of variance.
but
So it's the same
Variance.
thing, I guess we're saying is
Matt,
that,
how do you meet it before you get a building permit?
because you have the plan that says we'll do
So
this, and
you're,
part of that could be.
so it's a condition of the plan being prepared.
Yes, and then I guess we'd say, well, then the building permit isn't complete until like the plan has been implemented as part of that.
But the final inspection is not gonna be complete until that's done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, step,
Yep.
last item, be complete prior to issuance of a building permit. Talking about the specific construction environment plan. Be complete
Yeah.
prior to
Yeah.
issuance of a building permit.
Yeah.
That's what- yeah.
Yeah, so that plan, comma, a little clause there, and then be completed.
And then I think instead of local environment, we should say the immediate natural environment.
Okay.
So really what you're talking about then is you're talking about the media, the environment around this piece of property.
Yeah.
Nothing else, right? Yeah.
It's not
Well-
impact on global climate change, but it's
right,
like,
but it's doing its small part. That'd be okay with that?
Okay, so back up to, I'm gonna delete this then. And to the, we're gonna,
Okay, so we're now going to vote on these 8 or 9 or 10 points.
we're gonna need to vote on them all at once. And
You
so
do? Yep. Okay, so that's how we're gonna word the motion. It's
So I
called a
just,
motion.
yeah, but can we just review these 4 bullets? We are still of the mind, there are 2 board members who believe it's minor and 1 believes it is not minor, and that is still the case after discussion. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. And then when it comes to hardship, we have 2 board members who believe hardship as a result of the property restriction has been demonstrated. 1 does not believe that that has been demonstrated. That is still true.
Well, it's only because I believe there are other ways.
Okay. Stretching it out here, okay. And variance does not, it was an inappropriate development of the site. Do we still believe, 2 people believe it does not result in inappropriate development and 1 does?
Yeah.
Still of the same mind, everybody? We can all answer, not just one person. And the variance adversely affect the natural environment. We're still of the mind, 2 people believe does not. And 1 believes does. Okay.
But,
Unless
do
proven
we have
otherwise.
to respond, say something in there on the.
Maybe
agenda that we got?
See the note.
Okay, whereas,
No, what, the question is whether Wendy's concerns are addressed, in which case she'd be voting with that, I guess, by existence of the condition. Are they, you think? Would you feel that the condition would satisfy your concerns about that point?
If I got a report, if I saw a report that said this pool does not pose any problems for the natural environment, I'd be happy. No problem.
On all the
On
points?
all the points.
Okay, so we don't have to leave any of this green stuff.
nope, we don't, just want
So
to track
we're
what's
making a
happening.
condition imposed on the applicant the applicant may or may not feel that it's worth proceeding on that basis, right? But, you know, sharing some of your concerns also, I think that would make me feel that the conditions had been satisfied. Okay?
Okay,
Just the same stuff going on behind us. Yes.
you don't like me leaning into your lap. Okay, I might tweak that grammar possibly, but for now, I've just got in brackets with a condition requiring a report on that line. And we're gonna get rid of this green. Okay, and then we have down here, be allowed the following condition. The following condition. Are people ready for this to come out of blue? Yep, it's good too.
So where you've in parentheses said with a condition, I think you say subject to, and then define it.
Yeah, thank you. Subject to
You say condition, can you just tie it to the condition?
now how do I put subject to condition related below? Stipulated below.
No, I think you'd want to incorporate the condition right there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because otherwise, you know, like when you do footnotes, you have an asterisk, then you look down below to the asterisk.
Okay,
So you kind of
so can I'll just move this whole thing down, okay. Can we just say like may not here, like,
No, may,
because it's,
no,
that's the condition.
shall not is okay, probably.
I'd rather just, leave it does not, and then you say subject. So it's like,
Yeah, I think does not is better.
yeah, or sorry,
It's
does.
not, it's not going to, if somebody says it's going to be fine.
Okay. So is it okay like this?
Okay, so subject to applicant providing a report to the municipality.
Right here?
Well, you're gonna try to get this whole thing up there,
Yeah, put it right after.
and then we'll reword it after we stick it in there, I think, maybe.
Okay.
No, I mean, I'd rather have it like, so these are the whereases, you've done two of the whereases, and then therefore, like, that's your recommendation is the part at the bottom, that you'd be allowed with the following condition. That's-
Okay.
That's where you stick the condition. So you're just flagging it up above that, like, you are saying, you know, you're saying whereas it does not, because you put a condition on it. But actually, in the therefore be it resolved, that's the piece where like, that's
So-
the order you're making.
Yeah, right. So the condition comes after the be it resolved.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is be allowed with the, instead of saying with the following condition, I would say comma, subject to, and
Subject to the.
then put your condition in there. But it's not quite right yet even.
I feel like I could tweak this offline as a bit, just without,
Okay. Okay, well, the active requirement of the subject hasn't quite been defined because it has to do with the applicant providing the report that says that there's not going to be a negative impact on the environment as a condition or as a requirement of the building permit. That's what I think we're trying to say. Right? So you just go ahead and do that your own little way.
Isn't that what it says?
That's what it says already, huh?
Because,
Yeah, it
you can read
does.
it prior to issuance, so we're not issuing that until that happens.
It just didn't say where this report was gonna come from. I thought
Oh,
applicant
Just construction.
providing was one way of doing it.
Is that sort of operational detail that
Yeah.
Chris is not familiar with, but you feel quite comfortable with?
yeah, I'm comfortable. It's like the plan, because I guess at that point of view, we're like, well, the applicant could provide it, the owner could provide it. We're not
Okay,
fussed from that point of view.
I'm just trying to, yeah. It's not gonna happen without the owner providing it.
Yeah.
Right. So you need to put that up in there anyway, and then we can quit and vote.
Sorry, Chris, put what?
Where you can put.
What I'm looking at is a footnote still.
It's just a bullet. Maybe we can change that to a different bullet.
Just put it in the sentence.
Oh, like and not go colon.
Oh,
Below.
we don't need a
Keep
bullet.
Move it to below
Right.
and maybe indented or something. Or,
Okay, okay.
or to a different font
So
or
you don't
something.
want it in this, okay, so I thought Daniel sort of clarified that this is sort of the section where the condition is outlined, the whereases are creating a background and context, addressing the local government act, and this is where the meat of your recommendation lives. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe have all the font the same size font? So if you recall.
Maybe put which clarifies, not that clarifies. Sounds better because you've got that twice.
Yeah,
Right after 2022 PGL report.
Will not, not would not, will not,
where are we?
would not adversely affect.
Much better.
Maybe just want completed and submitted. Submitted to somebody. Building department would have to have a copy within us.
Oh, that's gonna help Chris, Rick.
Yeah, I
There you
mean,
go.
if something happens, then
There you go. Phew.
part of that, nothing happened.
That looks pretty good.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Then Chris, did you know the mover of that motion and the seconder?
Yes, okay, so can Steph read the motion?
Whereas the variance is minor.
First, let me set this up. Okay, I'd like to. How do you do this? You call for a motion and then Steph reads it and then we vote on it? Can we do it that way?
Read it so we know what we're moving.
All right,
Okay. Whereas the variance is minor, whereas the applicant and notified people have been heard by the board, whereas undue hardship has been demonstrated, whereas the variance does not result in inappropriate development of the site, whereas the variance does not substantially affect the use and enjoyment of adjacent land, whereas the variance does not vary permitted uses and densities, whereas the variance does not defeat the intent of the bylaw, whereas the variance does not vary the application of an applicable bylaw in relation to residential rental tenure, as there is no residential rental tenure. And whereas the variance does not adversely affect the natural environment subject to the conditions stipulated below, therefore be it resolved that based on the criteria indicated in section 5421 of the Local Government Act, the Board of Variance application number BOV 20230304, 235 Shore Lane, to reduce the minimum setback from the natural boundary of the sea for construction of a swimming pool be allowed, subject to the following condition: that a project-specific construction environmental management plan as outlined in the 2022 PGL report, which clarifies that the proposed pool will not adversely affect the immediate natural environment be completed and submitted prior to issuance of a building permit.
Okay, I think if just one little change here. On the last whereas, instead of saying the condition stipulated below, might be able to say the condition stipulated in the following resolution.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah. So you want to ask for a mover?
But it's better.
Okay, and then is your reading of that sufficient, or when I
Yes.
call the motion, do I have to read it again?
No, you're asking for a mover now on what I just read.
Okay, so may I have a motion to accept the resolution? Wendy has in the affirmative, Rick in the affirmative.
Seconded. Do a
I,
discussion before we do roll.
any discussion before a vote? All in favor? Carried. Fred,
Thank you.
it should be a big moment.
It is. Yes.
Don't explain it any further, though. You might screw it up.
I just want to say thank you. You will make sure that that is addressed. No question.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
I don't like to be the bad guy. It's just,
Well, I haven't been when it comes to government and, we're very environmentally conscious people and, want to make things and do things.
thanks, and I appreciate it. We all of us.
May I suggest that we adjourn the meeting before and then we can discuss after?
Sure.
Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn? Rick, Wendy,
Second one.
all in favor?